The Macroeconomic and Financial Management Institute of Eastern and Southern Africa, MEFMI, was proud to be associated with the GE South Africa during the 2016 Combined Forum held on the 4th of October in Washington, D.C. The company's passion to contribute to sustainable development across Africa resonates well with MEFMI's desire to building capacity among member states towards achieving sustainable economic development. President and Chief Executive Officer of GE South Africa, Mr. Thomas Konditi, was one of the key speakers during the MEFMI Combined Forum, acknowledged that the region is facing unpleasant realities which require urgent attention from both the state and non-state actors.
This is the first meeting that GE has sponsored of its kind. And we're meeting under what are arguably very difficult circumstances in the countries that we come from. Some of those driven just by slow growth, some of those issues driven by depressed commodity prices and the like. But that said, investment in infrastructure continues to be a key focus for each of our countries. And we've noted that reforms and initiatives have been undertaken to stimulate and to grow those efforts. So, as the Executive Director mentioned, why GE? Why is GE here? What is the engagement? Well, GE's engagement across infrastructure investment is vast across our region. In almost every country in MEFMI, we are in rail, power, aviation, healthcare, oil and gas, mining, and really anything that has to do with putting power into the system or onto the grid. The scale of spending that we have seen continues to be enormous. The demand continues to be enormous. And we have resources that somewhat split between how do you get the equipment and the actual infrastructure built, and then the other side, how do you get it paid for?
GE has over the years committed itself to innovation in infrastructure, healthcare, energy and transportation. According to Mr. Konditi, economic growth in Africa will hinge on the ability of the regional economies to invest in sound infrastructure and harnessing the private sector in finance development.
With public balance sheets shrinking, how do you drive private mobilizing of private capital into the space? The second is, how do you make project delivery more effective in getting the projects up and running? And then thirdly, how do we build capabilities in our systems to handle more sophisticated, innovative financial transactions, PPPs, and the like? So first, we really have to catalyze the private engagement in project financing. Bank lending, which has been the norm, is shrinking for either macroeconomic reasons or regulatory. And this is something where if we don't have broader private sector engagement, we will not be able to tap into that source for everything. Long-term investors, such as insurance companies, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds, can be good alternative sources, but they also see pressure and have a different appetite for risk, as well as understanding some of our more bespoke projects that we have in the region.
According to Mr. Konditi, GE's healthcare project in Kenya testifies to the significance of public-private sector partnerships, as well as the firm's commitment to make a positive impact in the lives of people on the continent.
All 98 hospitals, I think they completed in August of last year, have been outfitted with new radiology centers. So you have ultrasound, you have X-ray, you have in some places CT scanners, in other places diagnostic imaging. Plus, where you were going to do operations, you have operating rooms outfitted. Where you were going to do the patient monitoring, you now have the equipment deployed. You have, just for our sector, which was one of the 7, we've hired 160 Kenyans, technical jobs, engineering jobs, management jobs, to deploy this equipment and then to maintain it for the next 7 years. And in return, the ministry, the finance ministry, and all the way to the presidency, you have a report, because you can now use technology in a different way, of exactly how that equipment is used every day.
The GE South Africa's representative, who has vast experience in driving commercial growth and innovation, assured the participants at the Combined Forum that the organization will continue to support efforts to end poverty and spur economic growth across the continent.